Welcome into Sports Memo's college basketball betting podcast for Friday, February 1st. We got Brent Crow on. We're talking two Big Ten games on tonight's slate for the Friday night college basketball card. Then we're going to hit four college basketball look-aheads for Saturday's game. Try to get on the right side of some of this line movement, totals movement, and hopefully get some winners for tomorrow's card as well. So without further ado, Brent Crow, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm doing great, Drew. I mean, can't complain when you're on a winning streak.
Absolutely. Winning streak for sure. 8-1 last 9, 5% plays. That's the top-rated plays on sportsmemo.com. He's on an 8-1 run. And what, Brent, you're also on a 9-1 top play of the day run as well in college basketball. Is that right?
That's right. That's between 4 and 5% plays, just the best one I've had each day. 9 out of the last 10, and it's, like we were talking, it's crazy. The only one I lost was the $2 Tuesday one, which drives me crazy. But 9-1 the last 10. We're going to make it 10 out of 11 tonight and continue this streak.
Yeah, man. I mean, that $2 Tuesday play, it did lose, and I know a lot of people jumped on it, so it's part of this business. But nonetheless, Brent's been great, so make sure to check out his handicapper page on sportsmemo.com. He's got a top play for tonight's card, Friday night action. Check that out at SportsMemo. We got a coupon code for Brent's 3-day all access for half off. Just use Crow half 1. That's CROWHALF, the number 1 at the end for half off of his 3-day all-access. Great deal there at sportsmemo.com. Brent, we got, Michigan versus Iowa. We can start off in the Big Ten tonight. We got Michigan, the Wolverines laying 3.5 in Iowa, 142.5 the total. This is an interesting matchup, kind of contrasting styles, Brent. How do you look to bet it?
Yeah, Michigan we're very familiar with, and I've talked about them a lot, how good they are defensively. They play a lot of low-scoring games. Their offense is not bad, but not a fast team. But mainly, the one thing you would say that stands out the most for Michigan this year is their defense. Iowa, on the other hand, not so much. As Iowa's defensive issues have been a problem under Fran McCafferty, and it looked for two games like they had it figured out against Northwestern and Ohio State. They had two wins. It was 73-63 and 72-62, and the players were talking about, we really bought into playing defense, and blah, blah, blah. And 4 games later, they ranked 14th in the Big Ten in defense, and they gave up 92 in their last one to Minnesota, 82 to Michigan State. The game before that, both losses, and all of a sudden Iowa doesn't look like they know how to play defense again. So now they play a Michigan team. They're on their home court. I mean, they're going to have to play some defense in this one if they have any chance of beating the Wolverines. And Michigan offensively, they're 29th in the nation in offensive efficiency, and they have gotten a little worse as far as their numbers go in Big Ten play, and part of that, of course, has to do with competition. I mean, you're playing a top 65 or 70 team every night, but they've still, lost one game, 16-point win against Ohio State in their last one. They beat Indiana by 23 on the road the time before that. I mean, just right now, I think with the loss of Langford for the year, I think Michigan's definitely the best team in the Big Ten, and I like to play Michigan games under the total if I'm going to play them. But at 142, that's a big number for Michigan. But man, Iowa's just been so bad offensively. I'm sorry, Iowa's been so bad defensively. And I know what Michigan can do, but still, if I still just couldn't play this one over. It don't matter how bad Iowa is, just knowing the fact that Michigan's going to play great defense, the pace is going to be slow. I mean, if you bet all Michigan conference games this year, there's been 10 of them. You bet under 142.5 or under 142 in those 10 Michigan conference games. You've cashed 9 tickets, so it's tough to play against that. And like I said, knowing how good Michigan is defensively and how slow it's going to be, and unless Iowa just comes out and is completely reckless, and lets Michigan do what they want. I just, like I said, I would lean to playing it under, and also lean to Michigan a little bit. They're laying 4.5, but I think, like I said, they're clearly the best team in the Big Ten right now.
Yeah, this is an interesting game, contrasting styles. I think Iowa, a top 50 team in terms of pace, they're going to want to push it. And they can knock down their free throws as well. But to the free throw point, Michigan doesn't foul very often, Brent. Only 13% of points against are from the opponent's free throws, so they just don't foul that much. Also, when you look into Iowa offensively, yeah, they can put the ball in the basket. There's no doubt. They're a very skilled offensive team. But against the kind of more skilled defensive teams that they've played of recent, against Michigan State, they only had 67 points on 69 possessions, so less than a point per possession. I think they're going to run into a little trouble offensively against this Michigan defense. Number one right now in Ken Palm defensive efficiency. They're definitely a top 5 defense in the country. And number 319 in terms of pace, like you touched on. I think Michigan's the more talented team, and they control the pace, even though they're the road team. I'm kind of in that camp where the more talented team controls pace. So I kind of like the under here, Brent, of 142.5. But you're not getting involved, huh?
No, I didn't play this one, but like I said, I would definitely lean under. It's just, I agree with you that Michigan's sort of like Virginia. You're not going to turn it into a track meet. They're going to play slow, and they're not going to let you score easily. I mean, if Iowa wants to come down and jack a 3 with a guy in his face, they can play as fast as they want to. But as far as getting open shots against this Michigan defense, you're not going to be able to do it quickly.
Good point, Brent. And we got another Big Ten game here. We got Maryland at Wisconsin, 2 top 25 teams here, and 131.5 the total. Looks like Whiskey laying 5 in at home. Whiskey is the home team here in the Kohl Center. This one on FS1 Friday night action. How would you look to bet Maryland, Wisconsin?
This was a really good game the first time these two teams played in Maryland on the 14th of January at 64-60. Maryland got the win in a 61 possession game, one of the slowest games Maryland has played all year. Not that Maryland's fast, but they're usually around the 66, 67 possession game. Wisconsin, that's how they like to play. They're kind of like Michigan. They play slow. They play great defense. They're 5th in the country right now, 2nd in the Big Ten, only to Michigan. And they play slow on offense. And right now, Wisconsin's playing their best basketball of the season. They're coming off 4 straight wins, including a win over Michigan. And then their last time out in a game that I thought Nebraska had to have. I mean, it was a crucial game for Nebraska on their home court, and Wisconsin beat them 62-51. So, like I said, I think Wisconsin right now is playing the best that they've played. You got a great matchup here between Ethan Hepp and Bruno Fernando down low. We'll see who wins that battle. But it's tough for me to go against Wisconsin right now, but at the same I'm not sure I want to lay 5, but I would lean to Wisconsin getting the win, and also to the under in this one as well. I mean, just for the fact that Wisconsin is such a good defensive team. They play slow, and I saw Maryland play at Michigan State last week on last Monday. They scored 55 points in 62 possessions on the road. They looked completely lost on offense and that was if you go back and look when they've played really good defenses, Michigan State, Wisconsin, Purdue, Penn State is a pretty good defensive team. Then Maryland has really struggled, and especially away from home. So I just 130, 131. I would definitely lean under in this one.
Like an under. I actually like the road team here, Brent. Wisconsin -5. It's just a profile I hate to bet, and that's a team laying this type of number, and they only hit 66% from the line. That's a profile I just don't think is a winning profile long term. They're a slow team in 2 6'10 plus starters. Yeah, I like that, protecting the rim. But where Maryland struggles offensively is turnovers, and that can kill you on the road. And that's where, if Maryland loses, that's, in my opinion, how they will lose. It's just that's not where Wisconsin excels on defense. They don't turn their opponents over. So that's why I like the Terps here. I took the Terps +5. That's the way I'm betting it. But I guess you're in disagreement, Brent?
No, I mean, like I said, I think Wisconsin wins the game. I just couldn't lay 5 here. I mean, they have won 4 in a row. They've looked great. But, a low possession game, 5 points is a lot.
All right, good stuff, Brent. And guys, we do have that coupon code CROW1 for his 3-day all access for half off at sportsmemo.com. You'll get his college basketball play tonight, Saturday college basketball action, Sunday college basketball action, also any Super Bowl props that Brent puts up for big discount there on his 3-day all access. Coupon code CROW1 at checkout. Game number 625-626, USC at Georgia. I'm talking USC East. Sorry for offending anybody out there. That's South Carolina at Georgia. And as we do the Saturday games, guys, we're going to be in look-ahead right now. It's only, about noontime Eastern on Friday. So the lines are not up for the Saturday card, but we'll go off of Ken Palm's numbers. I'll just read them off. Georgia 78, or South Carolina 74. That makes for a total of 152. How would you look to bet this SEC matchup, Brent?
Well, I did have Georgia to go over the total against Arkansas on Tuesday night. And like I said, that was a game that the one game I've lost lately. And in that one, we had 71 possessions. I mean, they were both trying to play as fast as they could. They just could not score. They couldn't shoot the ball. The two teams combined to go 12 for 45 from 3. Georgia missed 14 free throws, and Arkansas missed 7. So, that was a game that the pace was right. It was just some really bad shooting from both teams. Georgia wound up only 12 out of 41 from 2 and 7 of 24 from 3. That's 19 out of 65. And then throw in 14 missed free throws, and that's why they lose by 10 to Arkansas. And it was a game that was close. I mean, the 10 points score at the end was completely misleading because Georgia, they were able to lead most of the first half. It was a 2 or 3 point game in the second half, and then in the last minute, Georgia missed some shots, and while they were fouling Arkansas, and the margin went from about 5 to 10 where it wound up. So, totally misleading game as far as the final score goes. And when you look now, Georgia goes back home to face South Carolina. And South Carolina, there's one thing that Gamecocks have done this year that's kind of, under Frank Martin, you wouldn't expect South Carolina to play as fast as they have. They're actually third in the SEC in adjusted tempo and 29th in the nation. I mean, they get it up and down the court. Take a lot of threes, a lot of early offense, and you look at them individually as their players, and they don't have any NBA guys, but they've been pretty effective offensively for the most part. Defensively, they've struggled. Not, like I said, it's just not a Frank Martin profile that you're used to seeing. Right now, South Carolina in SEC play is 10th in the conference in defense. For the season, they're 115th in the nation. So, and part of it is I just don't think this group has a lot of good defenders. I mean, they've got some young guys. They've got a few seniors, but all in all, they're not a great defensive team, and they played a lot of high-scoring games. I think this will definitely be another one. 152 is about my limit, but I would still look to play it over the total here. I think Georgia bounces back and shoots it a little better at home than they did on the road. And South Carolina, like I said, they're going to run up and down the court no matter who they played. For the most part, they have been able to score. And like I said, they don't play that good a defense. So there's been a lot of high-scoring SEC games involving South Carolina this year.
And Brent, just to follow up on that, I'm not sure if you were just breaking up for me or on the podcast. You said was that South Carolina or Georgia you were talking about, looking to bet these two teams going forward that really struggles on the defense? They just don't have guys that can play defense. Which one were you?
South Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah, I just don't think South Carolina personnel-wise has a lot of good defenders, and certainly there's something wrong. The statistics bear it out that they're not a good defensive team.
All right, Brent, and we got another SEC game here before we move on to some later games on Saturday. 663, 664, Kentucky at Florida. 64-62 is what Ken Palm is projecting a Kentucky win in the O-Dome. That would bring us to a total of 126. Brent, what are you thinking here for the Wildcats and Gators?
Well, this Kentucky team's definitely turned it around. I mean, they're playing some great defensive basketball. Early in the season, you didn't think they were that solid of a defensive team, but they have really picked it up using their length and athleticism, and they have more than any other team in the SEC. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But they've been able to do it on the road. They've done it at home. I mean, this is – and not only have they been playing great defense, their offense is picking it up as well. Last time out, they had an 87-52 win on the road against Vandy. And, I think that this may be, Calipari doesn't get a lot of credit as a coach, but this is the best coaching job I've seen, because this is not the roster that we've seen in the past. I mean, yes, there are NBA guys, but there's not 5 first-round picks on this roster. So, they started out, like I said, a little bit slow, lost their first SEC game on the road to Alabama. Since then, they've won 6 in a row, plus the win over Kansas last Saturday. They're playing right along with Tennessee and LSU as good as anyone in the SEC, and I think actually playing a little better than both of those other teams, even though they're all in the same, they all have the same record or close to it, and they're all on winning streaks. So I think right now Kentucky's playing better than anybody in conference play. And then I look at Florida, and Florida's 12-8 overall, 4-3 in SEC play. They were, I thought, very, very lucky to beat Ole Miss on Wednesday night. They needed a 3 with 1 second left to tie it, send it in overtime, and then we were able to get the win in overtime. But this Florida team, I mean, they just rely on a couple of guys offensively, and they just do not have enough weapons. And I think that when they're up against a really good defensive team, such as Kentucky, they're going to struggle. And we've seen that throughout the season. I mean, they have 8 losses, and for the most part, anytime they play somebody that plays really good defense, they haven't been able to score. And I think that'll be the case again here. I mean, if Kentucky's only -2, I'll bet Kentucky -2 here. The total at 126 is probably about right. I mean, you're going to have, like I said, 2 teams that play really good defense. But, I'd actually probably lean to the over if the total's this low. I think that Kentucky will score some points here. The game probably going to be in the 60s for both teams, but probably not. I don't think there's as much value playing the total as there is with Kentucky if they're at -2 or less.
Brent, good stuff there breaking down the SEC. We got 2 more games here, guys, and also remember the coupon code CROWHALF1 at checkout for half off of Brent Crow's 3-day all access for college basketball and the NFL Super Bowl plus props package. Guys, we got 2 games left here heading out west, and also make sure to check out sportsmemo.com for all your Saturday betting needs. There's going to be a lot of plays up, a lot of games on Saturday, so it's a great day to be a sports bettor. We got 679, 680, San Francisco, St. Mary's. Looks like Ken Palm has it St. Mary's getting the home win 70-66. That would give us a total of 136, Brent.
This is an interesting game. We talk about a West Coast Conference game for a change. The West Coast Conference has been dominated by Gonzaga. They had another easy blowout road win last night against BYU, 93-63, and undefeated. And then the battle is for second place, and I think San Francisco is the second best team. However, they're coming off a loss to San Diego in their last one, and San Diego's not a bad team either. But San Francisco now 5-2 in conference play. Of course, losing to Gonzaga at home, and then their loss to San Diego last Saturday. They've had an entire week off since that loss to prepare for St. Mary's. St. Mary's has lost 2 straight games. They lose to Pepperdine last Saturday in overtime, and also Thursday they lose to BYU. Both those games on the road. Now they're playing on their home court, and this is a revenge game for St. Mary's. Earlier on January the 3rd, they lose at San Francisco 76-72. So a lot of stuff going on here. This is a crucial game for West Coast Conference play. And, I don't think that neither one of these teams is going to get an at-large bid. San Francisco could if they ran the table and beat Gonzaga on the road. You might see them be able to get an at-large bid, but St. Mary's definitely is not. They're a little down this year, mostly because their defense is not as good as they have been in the past, and offensively their numbers are pretty solid, but I don't know, something about this team just, it's not as good overall and not as deep as they were the last few years. San Francisco is, I think, San Francisco's got a lot of good players. a lot of seniors, and this is their year basically, other than Gonzaga in this conference. But right now at 136, the total, St. Mary's -4. I'm not just as much as interested in the side as I am the total here. I'd play this one over the total at 136. The first game was 76-72, 70 possessions, a lot of up and down basketball in that game for a St. Mary's team, and both teams were pretty efficient offensively. I think that both teams really attacked. I mean, it wasn't a slow down game at all, and I think you'll see more of the same here. And if you get, like I said, a 136 or even less, you may even see this total go down a little bit or come out a little lower than 136. And I wouldn't mind that at all, because I think these teams match up well offensively. It seemed like in the first one they both have some talent, and I would look for with them both being off for a week, should be well rested and all that. I'm not sure that really benefits offensively or defensively, but I think in this one, just there would be some value at 136 or so.
And I don't have it in front of me, Brent, but you said the first matchup was 76-72?
Right.
Man, they're playing odds maker here, and you said 130 or 136 KenPom projecting. You think it might come out under. Why would that be if we're flirting with 150 as the first matchup?
Just because of the overall numbers. I mean, I think, the KenPom numbers matter more than anything else. I think, in totals, a lot of it has to do with matchups too. And the way these, I was really shocked because I had a bet on San Francisco in the first game -3 that I wound up winning. San Francisco, for the most part, led the game by 8 to 10 points the entire game. May have gotten it up to like 14 or so at one point, and then St. Mary's made a comeback late and then just kind of ran out of gas. Actually, San Francisco had a 13-point lead with 13 minutes to go. So, but it was really, as I watched the game, I couldn't believe how up and down they were, because St. Mary's has a reputation, and you look at their numbers, their pace is 332nd in the nation. They're slow. And then you had San Francisco, which is 246. I mean, they're slower than average. So, but both teams really pushed, really tried to get early offense, and like I said, there are some capable offensive players on both teams. So, I don't know if it was. I mean, it was like that from start to finish. I mean, it was like both teams. They got their strategy was to run and try to get open. Early shots, and hopefully that'll be the case again here.
Man, that's a fascinating handicap on this total as far as overall numbers versus last place, and they're both slow-paced teams like you said. But if they get out and go, and there might be some value on that over. Good call there, Brent. We got 7-6-9-7. Oh, good. Go ahead, man.
The other thing was, I mean, it was 76-72, and the shooting percentages were not high. I mean, it wasn't like that they were really efficient offensively, 70 possessions and 148 points. But you look, St. Mary's shot 46% from 2, only 5 for 15 from 3, and then only 68% from the free throw line. San Francisco also 68% from the free throw line and 46% from 2, 41 from 3. So, it wasn't like they both lit it up and scored 148.
Brent, we got one game left here, 7-6-9, 7-70. Loyola Chicago versus Illinois State, 64-65. Illinois State with the win, according to KenPom's numbers, 129 the total. Finish us off here with a get-back game of sorts. I believe this is a 9 p.m. Eastern tip-off here. What do you got for this late-night action?
Must be an ESPN game to be in this conference and play at 9 o'clock. It definitely, they're doing that for television purposes. There's no question. And what you have here is two of the better teams in the Missouri Valley. Loyola with a win on Wednesday night over Northern Iowa, up to 7-2 in conference play. Illinois State has had a kind of an up and down season, but 6-3 now after beating Drake on the road on Wednesday night in conference play. And you look at the total here, 129, basically a pick'em game. And I tell you, it's funny when you look at that Loyola of Chicago, what they've done this season. They're either really good or just awful. Their last loss, they scored 35 points against Missouri State. They sandwiched that one. They'd scored 75 in the previous game, 75 in the prior game. So, they had another game earlier this year where they scored 48 points against Evansville. They had 42 against St. Joe's. I mean, when they're cold, they're ice cold, basically. But for the most part, what you see is a lot of low-scoring games in this conference, and especially with these teams. Loyola Chicago is 342 in pace for the season. I mean, they are, and even slower than that. They average 64 possessions for the season, but in conference play, 61 possessions. But they are the number one rated offense in this conference. In Illinois State, they're also fairly slow, 65 possessions in conference play. Their defense is third best in the conference, but they've kind of been kind of like Loyola Chicago. They're either really bad or really good offensively. They had a little stretch where they were scoring some points, and prior to that, their defense was really good. They kind of combined it in their last game against Drake with the 69-55 win. And now they're at home against Loyola. And I think this is a game that it's going to stick with the script in this conference. Low scoring. I don't think either one of these teams is going to go off here. And, I'm not sure there's going to be a lot of value at 129. But if it creeps up to 132 or 3, I'll look to bet it under the total.
Brent, great stuff as always. Guys, we got the coupon code CROW1 at checkout for half off Brent Crow's 3-day all-access. College basketball is going to be in full action this weekend. Obviously, we got the Super Bowl Sunday. Check out Sportsmemo for all your needs. We got Teddy Covers up with his Super Bowl pick and prop package. He's been great with that over the last couple of years. Check that out at sportsmemo.com for a reduced price. Brent Crow will definitely be in action. He's an 8-1 his last 9 top plays, 5% variety, 9-1 college basketball run. He's been absolutely great on the college basketball betting markets. Great choice there for CBB. Brent, what do you got on tap for this weekend, man? Where are you watching the game? What are you doing Saturday? What's your plan?
Well, the basketball takes the center stage for me, and I'll have my Super Bowl props up tomorrow sometime. It's been a really interesting Super Bowl as far as how the point spread has gone, and all the money came in on New England at first. Now we're seeing. I knew that eventually you would see some Rams money, and now there has been some Rams money, but it seems like from just stuff that I've been reading that the majority of the big money has been on the Patriots. But again, it makes sense because if you're going to bet the Rams and all the money's coming on New England, then you're going to wait. So I think at the end of the day, you'll probably see it balance out. There'll be some more big groups or bettors that play on the Rams, and like I said, it'll be closer to half and half as far as the money goes. But, there's always value in props. It's one of the most fun things that you can bet, I think. I always had a really good time with props, and I think there is some value out there as well. So, and as far as watching it, I'll just be in my normal place in the office or in the recliner, just enjoying it.
All right, Brent. Well, have a great weekend, man. Enjoy the Super Bowl, and man, best of luck on Saturday with your college basketball betting card. And guys, we'll be right back with Rob Vino breaking down some more games on Saturday's college basketball betting card.